Komets Corner is presented by Lee's Famous Recipe.
Well, he should be thought out by now. ICD Eagle Polar Plunge this past weekend, raising money for charity. He had himself a good time out there. Why not? That was one of the highlights of the weekend, unfortunately. Shane Albarani joining us now to talk Komets Corner. 2 games against the Walleye, both close, but both unfortunately going to the Walleye. One of the few 2-game weekends we're going to see from here going on out. So taking a look back at the weekend as a whole before we dive into each game individually, what was your impression of the way that the Komets played this past weekend? Because like I said, I mean, kind of a nice comeback on Saturday, but unfortunately it falls in overtime.
Yeah, when we talked last Monday, we knew it was going to be kind of a shaky week, wondering what kind of punishment was going to be handed down after the brawl against Indy after the game last Sunday. And unfortunately, the hammer was put down on us and Indy as well, but we didn't have to play Indy, we had to play Toledo. So Komets playing 3 guys short on Friday night. Also, Odin Tufto was injured the previous weekend as well, so you lost your top centerman, one of your leading scorers. So really, if you kind of look at it, you're 4 men down at that point. So a valiant effort, considering that we were out an entire forward line. So all things considered, the game was close. The Komets were in it the entire way on Friday, but at the end of the day, it was kind of self-inflicted. You're going to have times where you're going to have illness, you're going to have injuries, you're going to have call-ups. So there's times when you do skate shorthanded, but this one, again, kind of self-inflicted. So, it was a little hard to take because that game, along with Saturday, were both winnable games. And you say, hey, you know what? If we had a full lineup, this probably would have had a different outcome.
We got off to a good start on Friday night against Toledo at the Jungle. You're talking about Kirill Tutayev.
There you go.
Okay, I saw the sheet on Friday night, and I was like, oh boy, like that one's going to be a tough one on the broadcast. Is that one of the tougher or more unique names that you've had to go with the Komets? Like, how do you make sure that you have the correct pronunciation? Because there's a lot of consonants back and forth.
That's a tough one because for me, if I say if they're passing it to him, it's Tutayev. So that's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
So I've stumbled a couple times since we've had this guy. Even when he played with Toledo, I had to say it. So, but no, he's a great ad. That's a pure scorer there. He's a great distributor. He's a sniper, as you saw there in the game Friday night. I'll say his name. It's a little tough, but as long as he's scoring goals, I'm okay with it.
And Kyle Mayhew did pick up his 9th, as you see right there. Kyle, as we talked about him being named to the midseason All-Star team, what has he meant, and how going forward is he going to be one of the guys that drives the engine for this team?
Yeah, he's a game changer, and I think a lot of teams. We're focusing on Alex Aliardi early in the season, then they turn their attention to Odin Tufto, and now, of course, it's Jack Dugan. So sometimes they forget about Kyle Mayhew, who is arguably the best defenseman in the league. If you look at the stats, he comes in to the week tied for the most points among defensemen in the league. So, he is definitely a game changer, and he's a guy you want on your side, especially when we get into these dog days here. He has got endless energy. I think he was the only guy when he went out to Tahoe. He's from California. Mm-hmm. He played college at the University of Denver, and he was used to the altitude. I think he was the only guy who wasn't gassed after that first period out in Tahoe because he's used to it. So just little things like that makes Kyle Mayhew pretty valuable.
The pride of Anaheim Hills, California. Before we get into the next game, you did mention Odin Tufto. Tell us where he's at physically, what's his injury, when can we expect him back? As Komets fans certainly can't wait to see him on the ice the next time he gets out there.
It was an arm injury. He's going to be out quite a while. We don't have an exact timeline yet. It's kind of a wait and see. But that happens. It's a contact sport. You lose guys. So everyone just next man up. You got to rally around him. And I expect him back, obviously, by the end of the season. But right now, there's no timeline.
All right. Going forward, how do you flip the script on Friday night? Obviously, you're disappointed to lose the game at home, no matter who the opponent is. How do they flip the script and get ready to play for Saturday? Because, I know these guys don't want to look at the standings all night and day, but you are chasing Toledo to a certain point when it comes to the Central Division standings.
Yeah, those 2 games hurt because now you have one more head-to-head with Toledo. you got 3 games at hand on them, so those games were awful important this weekend. So now, even though there is a lot of points still out there, you got to think that first place might be out of reach. But you do what you can with those games at hand. But going into Saturday night, you got Jack Dugan back. The guys again, they played great. Got down 3-1. Great come from behind there in the third period, which is something Toledo doesn't do. They don't give up leads in the third period. They're 22-0 when having the lead after 2 periods of play. So the fact that we were in a position to even win that game shorthanded was pretty impressive. So very happy for us to get a point. But again, man, both of those games were very winnable.
Yeah, 2 goals from Jack Dugan, and then Ethan Kevin with the goal that would help send it to overtime. When you take a look at Dugan's impact, he kind of had a slow start as far as goal scoring to the beginning of this season, but since the last couple of months have kicked in, he's been fantastic. What's really flipped the switch for him, and why has he been so effective in the last month or 2?
I think it's just getting comfortable. You start the season, some guys are just slow starters, and Jack just had trouble just scoring goals. He was still getting points, and I think that's a lot of things that people were overlooking. That he's not scoring goals, but look at the assists. There was a guy who led the league in assists last year, and he's going to be up there again this year. So just remember, he's a great distributor. He's not just a goal scorer. So Alex Aliardi kind of when we put the team together, he's the pure goal scorer, where Jack's just the guy going to give him the puck. So he is finally kind of caught fire here, and he's definitely the guy everyone kind of looks to. So when he was not in the lineup on Friday, he's a spark plug. So he's the guy that generates a lot of energy, and without him, they didn't quite have that jump, and we had it on Saturday night in Toledo. But again, the demons at the Huntington Center strike again, but we were able to get that point. Again, moral victories don't go very far when you're playing Toledo. You like to say, hey, we did what we could. But again, full lineup, it's probably 4 points.
As you saw, our old nemesis turned friend turned nemesis, Brandon Hawkins, with an overtime goal. He had a goal Friday night as well. I mean, he's 27 goals on the season. He's pretty good.
I guess.
Although we liked him a lot better, a few years ago when he was in different colors. But one of the things that really stuck out to me about Saturday's game is Toledo outshot the Komets 42-24. I mean, that's a pretty big discrepancy, especially for the K's this season. Outshot them 36-27 on Friday night. Is that something that Jesse will address in practice this week, or do you just look at that as I feel like the Komets outshoot almost everybody when they play them. So that is more of an aberration or just a credit to Toledo? How do you approach that if you're this coaching staff going forward, knowing that you really don't want to get outshot, you want to have as many opportunities as possible?
Yeah, again, you're shorthanded, so I mean, you have that, and you also get Tyler Inamoto back. We had him back on Saturday. He's an expert shot blocker, so that's going to help also as well. But I got to say, I got to give credit to our goaltenders. I mean, they have done nothing but keep this team in games. I mean, what you're asked to do as a goaltender is keep your team in the game so you have an opportunity to win. That's their only job. And tell you what, they have done it. I mean, they're giving up only 2 and 3 goals a night. That's what you want out of your goaltender. And Brett Brochu, another brilliant game. He was so good late in that contest. The Komets skated shorthanded an awful lot in that third period. He was great. And just unfortunately, he's now just kind of getting a few losses here. Same thing with Connor Unger. Very good in the game on Friday night. So goaltending, certainly not an issue.
Let's talk about the ECHL standings, because now this is going to be a week where you can make some hay. We'll get into the schedule for this week in just a little bit while, but you take a little bit look at these ECHL standings. You got Toledo there, number 1. Iowa now slides into the number 2 spot. They've got, let's see, 52. I can't read my own writing. 57 points
there you go.
In 47 games. The Komets right behind in third with 54 points, but only 44 games played. So there's a 3-game difference right there. That could be a huge difference in why the Komets are now in third place. But you take a look at the standings, like how much are you watching these at this point? And, obviously one of the big goals for any team is to have home ice advantage in the postseason. So you want to slide into that number 2 spot if you can by the end of the season.
Yeah,
you'd love to be in the number 1 spot.
Absolutely.
But the number 2 spot is beneficial from the fact that you've got home ice.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the Komets have actually been a better road team. So I mean, I know the guys do want home ice advantage, but not necessarily that important because they have performed better when they've been away from the Coliseum. So Yeah, you're going to go back and forth with Iowa here. The Komets have got 3 games at hand. You look at the standings. Toledo's got a comfortable lead now. Even the Komets in 3rd place, they're pretty comfortable against Indy, Bloomington, Cincinnati, and even Kalamazoo. So that bottom half there has still got a lot of catching up to do. So you're in a good spot here in the middle of February. You're going to have some division games here this weekend against teams that are below you. So on paper, these are games that you should win, and then you're going to go outside of the division for a few more at the end of the month. So if the Komets can finish the month of February strong, that 2nd spot certainly is within reach. But man, if you look at Fort Wayne and Iowa right now, it just seems like they're on a collision course for a first-round matchup. I mean, obviously a long way to go, but that's still when you look at it.
All right, let's take a look at this week's games because, again, as we were talking about earlier in the show, you guys have 3 games pretty much every weekend from here on out. So you're going to be busy. It's going to be, this is like, I don't want to say the dog days of the season, but this is where the grind really comes in, and you're going to see a lot of maybe attrition. I don't know. You're just going to see a lot of different things happen because we got a lot of hockey still left. Yeah. Every weekend's going to be critical. You look at Friday, you got the Cyclones coming into town, Saturday at the Wings, and then Sunday the Wings are back here. When you approach the rest of the season now, you're in the month of February. Like I said, you're in kind of the dog days of the season where you've got so much hockey to play every single weekend. How do you approach it if you're the Komets?
You've just got to keep, obviously mentally, but physically, because this is where the rookies their legs are going to start getting heavy because they're not used to playing games like this. Right here, this is about where they would stop in college or even juniors. So they are being acclimated to playing this many games, and they're certainly not used to playing this many games on top of each other. 3 and 3s every night. It's a grind. 3 games in less than 72 hours. Thankful that we don't play in too many different cities. The ECHL schedule makers have listened to us. It's like if you have 3 games in 3 nights, you can't play them in 3 different cities. So that has opened up a little bit for us to help us out as far as just plain old rest. So because you see we're going to play Kalamazoo twice here in the weekend. Cincinnati comes to town for 1, and more home and homes. With Kalamazoo we had a home and home with Toledo. So it's just really keeping the body and the mind straight. It's just be practical about it.
When you take a look at this Friday's game, Valentine's Day on Friday, and I have this written down here, on ice vow renewal package. Will you be out there renewing vows on Friday night? I think it's at the end of the first period, right?
Yeah, you know what? Since we have 3 and 3s, I don't get to see my wife very much on the weekends.
Yes.
So she does like her me time. So you know what? I don't see her at the Coliseum much. So I don't think we'll do something maybe away from the game.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And then on Sunday, it is Deaf Awareness Night at the Coliseum. So tell us a little bit about that and what people can expect if they're coming out on Sunday.
Yeah, you know what? It's a great inclusion promotion. We've gotten great feedback from it. Other teams have done it. So I'm not actually really sure what's all going to happen that night. But I know that, again, it's one of those things that we listen to our fans to do things like this. And, everyone is looking forward to it.
Going forward, what are you most looking forward to over this next about 2 months is about what we've got before the playoffs hit. What are you most looking forward to, and what are you most looking to see from this team in the final 2 months of the regular season?
I think, it's, consistency. I think we have been pretty consistent. I go back to the goaltending where, sometimes the goaltending is a little up and down. You get guys get called up, guys come down. Sometimes you just got to pull a guy from the SPHL or bring in a guy from juniors, and we haven't had that problem. So I think championships are kind of won from the goal line out. So Connor Unger and Brett Brochu, hopefully they will be able to stay here this whole time. They both have been wonderful. They've been great teammates and obviously great goaltenders. So looking to make sure everyone kind of protects them and plays really well in front of them because we have got really good goaltending. That's something I think that is kind of sometimes I think missed, with the kind of ups and downs, but the fact that those 2 guys literally, giving up 2 or 3 a night, maybe a 4th one on an empty netter. Those goals against are pretty low for a tandem like we have. It's something that a lot of teams don't have.
Okay, that was the big picture question. The micro question, the small question, and the last question I'm going to ask you is this week. Obviously, with the suspensions, the roster goes back to basically as normal as it can
Yes.
be for this point of the season. So what are you looking forward to this week, this weekend? I know when we used to have Blake Sebring as a guest, he was always like, I want to see this in the first period of a weekend. Like, first period on Friday, this is what I'm looking for. What would you be looking for this weekend from the Komets, knowing that there are 3 games against the teams that are 6th and 7th in the Central Division right now?
Yeah, this is where you don't want to stumble. You know, we've had our troubles with Kalamazoo, but that was earlier on in the season when they had a stronger lineup. I think the season series, I think Kalamazoo has it right now, 3 games to 2. Cincinnati, obviously, they've played a lot better. So, you know, you want to see a strong start. You know, the middle period has been the problem for the Komets. It's that second period where we seem to go to sleep a little bit. And then we have a very strong third period, one of the best third period teams in the league. So, you know, I would appreciate a little less drama in the third period, but hey, it's been exciting hockey, and you know, you got to take care of business against these teams that are below you. But one of the things I'm looking forward to kind of see what they're going to do here is that without Odin Tufto and without Nick Deacon-Poot this last weekend, the Komets are kind of missing that true centerman. You know, Justin Taylor obviously has been doing it a very long time, but everybody took faceoffs, and you learned the importance of puck control, because in the overtime against Toledo, you know what, all we needed was basically one face-off win. We could have cleared the zone, we could have killed that penalty off, and we had a chance to win. So something like that, to see someone either step up, or whether they sign someone, whether they make a trade, whatever, but what are they going to do with that centerman spot, considering Odin Tufto is going to be out for quite a while?
Really good on the face-offs, Odin Tufto. So we'll have to see how that plays out over the course of the season. He's Shane Albarani, I'm Glenn Marini, and that is your latest edition of Komets Corner.
Komets Corner is presented by Lee's Famous Recipe.